I was in the Army, and I was in the active Army for 6 years. And then I was also in the National Guard for another 7 years. For the young people that some of them might be interested in this, when we went in the military back then, you knew you were going to get drafted. Out of high school, Vietnam was going on, 1966. The draft was on, and we knew we were going to get drafted. So I tried to make the best of it. I went into aviation, Army aviation. I was a helicopter crew chief in Vietnam, and we flew all over Vietnam. I first was stationed in Pleiku, and then Quy Nhon, Vung Tau, and Da Nang, and Hue. But one of the things that I remember is that when we moved into Da Nang, we moved in with the Marine Corps. I was in an engineer unit that had an aviation section. We moved into with the Marines because we were having a hard time opening up the Hai Van Pass, and the Army was going to give them a hand. And so we were doing a lot of flying around the Hai Van Pass north of Da Nang and in that area. And we were flying mostly resupply and VIP missions and recon missions. And one day the officers met with the Marine Corps officers in the club, and they said, you know, we couldn't get a medevac today for a certain unit or something like that. And our officer says, well, we were sitting on our butts. Next time you need a medevac, you call us. We'll go help you. Even though that we weren't a medevac, you know, they needed anybody and everybody to help. So being in the Army, we were flying medevac for the Marine Corps. And during a couple battles up on the Hai Van Pass. I just remember that looking at Vietnam, it was a beautiful, potentially beautiful country with very, very nice people. They were very grateful that we were there, and the ones that didn't want anything to do with us were probably communists in disguise, you know. When I got over there in Vietnam, I was sent to Pleiku. It was a sister unit of the unit I ended up serving in. When I got there, they said, what are you doing here? You're supposed to be down in Quy Nhon. I says, well, they sent me up here, and they said, okay, you stay here for a week, and then you're going to go down with this other sergeant, and we'll transfer you both down there. Well, because I wasn't assigned to that unit, they didn't issue me a weapon. So they said, you're not in this unit, so you are not going to be issued a weapon. You'll get your weapon when you go to your unit you're in. And the word was we were going to be overrun that night. And I said, no way, there's no way. This is a war. I'm going to get a weapon. So I talked to some of the guys. They said, okay, out on the helicopters, we keep M16s in the helicopters, extra ones. We'll go out there and get you one. You know, and it was dark already. We walked out around the revetment, which is a big barrier. We walked out around the revetment, started to cross the taxiway there at the helipad, and bullets started dancing across it at us. They were already shooting at us. So then we ran back, and then I found a guy that was out on R&R, and I got his weapon. They gave me his weapon. I think they always try to, military says, we're all prepared for this, we're all prepared for that. My preparation for Vietnam was after my AIT training for helicopters. I was sent to Alaska, Fort Wainwright, Alaska, to work on the helicopters up there. I spent about a year up there working on helicopters, and the snow was flying, and they said, here's your orders. You're going to the Republic of Vietnam in December. So, but you get 30 days leave to go home first, go home to Minnesota, right, in December. So I went home, and then I went to Oakland Army Replacement Depot, and we were sent to Vietnam from freezing freezing cold to steaming hot. I stepped off that plane for about the first 5 minutes. I wasn't sure if I could breathe or not. You know, it was so hot and muggy. You know, but one of the other things I remember is at first we were we kind of figured you were going to go over there and kick some ass, do some good, But then as time goes on, it was more or less like we were actually looking out for each other. That was the mission. It was look out for your buddy, and then he'll look out for you. The hell with the war. Just do your time, do what you got to do your job, and just count those days and go home. The war effort was, there was something lost there. It was, but I will say one thing about my fellow soldiers and stuff like that. They looked out for each other, and they were brave. We sometimes, as a crew chief, I was in charge of the helicopter. We had missions. I had to get a gunner to go with me on the missions. And if I said, okay, we got a VIP, we're taking General so-and-so down to Da Nang, nobody would volunteer. I'd say, okay, you got to go. Pull rank on them, But if I said, okay, Marines are in trouble, we got a medevac mission, they would be fighting and pushing each other to get on that airplane so they could go help out. So that was the way they were, They had a lot of backbone. But it took me I never said a word about this until about 40 years after it happened. I never had any contact with any fellow veterans or anything. I never said anything about it. When I come home, when I got off that plane, when I came home, I seen these protesters at the airport, and they started coming towards me, and I thought, so I veered off, because I don't want nothing to do with these people, So I started veering off. Then they seen two Marines in their dress uniforms, so they figured those guys looked like they're more interesting, and I was glad too, because I didn't want anything to do with those people. But yeah, it was like, and then coming home was really weird. It was a weird situation. People didn't really know if you were like, some people definitely had opinions about it, but a lot of people were just like, they didn't know what to say, like, better than you than me, or But that I had a very hard time adjusting when I came back. Ended up going back to Southeast Asia for 3 more years, and I served in Thailand for 3 years with 46 Special Forces over there, and basically flying helicopters and maintaining helicopters over there. I did get to see a lot of the country and met interesting people. The Vietnamese people are wonderful people. It just was a crappy situation, and for and for the most part, they treated you pretty decent. But a lot of times we were isolated. Some places we were isolated in a compound, and that was it. You could not leave that compound. But other places, I guess they determined by the level of security. Like some places you could go, you could even go downtown some places until in Quy Nhon, I was there during the Tet Offensive in 1968. We were right in the middle of it. We could actually, before the Tet Offensive, we could actually go downtown, or to a bar a little ways away from our camp there. But then one night we came out of that bar, and there was nobody on the streets, not one vendor, not one person, and the guys that had experienced this before, they said, they're not here because Charlie is. Just beat feet back to camp. And yeah, so it was quite an endeavor.